Well, hello, beer fans, listeners. Hello, Martin Bridges. How are you?
I am very good, Michael. How are you yourself?
I'm pretty good. Maybe getting a little tired as the year winds down. So, as we speak, I'm working frantically on getting the last edition of Pursuit of Hoppiness ready for the printers. That will be out soon. Yeah, so, and then I'm going to put my feet up and have a nice rest. So,
That sounds like a
yeah.
good plan. I think it certainly feels like the end of the year is screaming towards us a
Yes. When I
terrific
lived
pace.
in Australia, I was convinced that the end of the year effectively started after the Melbourne Cup, because everyone basically took a day off for the Melbourne Cup
Yeah,
and then didn't really ever get back to work, and then there was just this really gradual sort of thing to head to summer, and we need something like that. We need a gentle slide towards the end of the year.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm already getting kind of those conversations about, are we not going to get this done before Christmas, are we? So we should probably just park it until
Yeah.
February.
All right, but we're going to get this done.
Yes.
Yes, you're here on the Third Pint Theory, in case you've stumbled here by accident. And I'm Michael Donaldson, your co-host, the editor of Pursuit of Happiness magazine, and Martin Bridges is with me as always, the
I
beer
am,
bigwig.
they call me the beer bigwig.
That's right. And I believe you're judging. What were you judging? Some beer competition just recently? I saw. What was that?
I was judging a homebrew competition, the
Okay.
Western Brewers Conference, the long-standing Auckland homebrew competition. They get together kind of once a quarter and with a brew to a style. So I was very happy to be a twofold brew bar in Auckland at the weekend judging rye IPA.
Oh, very good. I don't mind a rye IPA. Um, right. Well, the subject of this week's pod is this is a really I think great story. Um, a brewery that's been around more than 20 years,
Mm.
and we're talking about Sawmill in they're in the smallish town, bustling small town of Matakana, just north of
Mm.
Auckland, sort of near the beach there at Omaha, which is always a hot spot in summer. And you were up there the other week to see the owners, being Kirsty, McKay, and Mike Sutherland. And yeah, it's they're in a beautiful part of the world. They're a really interesting story.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah,
fascinating place. If you're heading north out of Auckland, it's very it's kind of very accessible there, and it is a great story. As you say, they've been around for 20 plus years. Mike and Kirsty have
they've had it
been
about
owners.
what 14 years or something.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
And they've grown significantly, and that's kind of all especially impressive given kind of they've had kind of a few speed bumps along the way. You know,
Mm.
back in 2019 they had a fire at the brewery and tap room, and that kind of could have been the end of them. I think it took quite a while to get things back up and going. They were brewing elsewhere for a
Yes.
while, and then they kind of just came out of that, and COVID happened. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they the fact that they've come through those storms and are kind of going from strength to strength is really great.
Yeah. Now, look, I mean, it's worth telling the backstory because I had a conversation with someone the other day. I was talking about Sawmill in the context of the beer they've done with Foursquare
Oh
for
yeah.
the summer called Beach Days, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But the person I was sharing this beer with and talking about it, and it's really good. It's a bright IPA. It's lovely. I said, "Have you ever been to Sawmill?" And he went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." In that little cafe,
Ah,
on
yeah,
And
yeah,
I said, "No, no, 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 no. That's a long time ago." And I think it's
yeah,
worth
yeah.
just telling that story now, because Sawmill started out in the Lee Sawmill Cafe.
Yep,
It was a great venue, a music venue, a really nice Sunday lunch venue. There was accommodation there,
yep.
little cabins out the back. And the brewery, when it started there, and I'm sure you went to it, you know, in the early days when I can remember going there, it was tiny. Like it
It
was
was.
just a shed or a small room, and there there was nothing much happening. They made the Doctor and the 12 gauge strong lager and maybe just another lager. There wasn't,
And they sold a lot of them at the village market in Matakana.
Yeah, in
Uh,
the swing top bottles.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
swing top bottles and also in cans a long time before um, anybody
Yes.
else did.
Yeah.
And I remember they had all the cans had kind of the same label because they'd bought like they had to buy a huge number of pallets of cans at the same time, and
Yeah.
I remember that was interesting, and they had like a hand filler, and it was all it was very basic. I remember going on a tour of the brewery with the Society of Beer Advocates,
Oh,
the old Silver
yes.
crew
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day, and I was fascinated that they were using dried yeast. So, and
Okay.
the same way as homebrewers, they were using, but they weren't buying large blocks of dried yeast. They were basically buying the homebrew little sachets and just ripping the
Yeah.
tops off. It's like about 200 of these
Oh
to
my
in.
God, I did not know that. So that was in the ownership. There was a guy called Peter Freckleton and his wife Decima um,
Yeah,
owned it, and they sold it to Mike and Kirsty. And I said 14 years ago, but I had a quick look at my phone, and it was in fact 2010, so 15 years ago.
mm,
Um, and so and Mike and Kirsty moved the brewery out of the cafe and up the road. Um, so it's moved out of Lee and into Matakana, and there's still an occasional case of mistaken identity.
yes,
Yeah, which even this far down the line, because that Lee Sawmill Cafe is so well known and so well established. But if you go to that brewery now, and you were there the other day, it is massive, and
it is.
it's Sawmill are one of the biggest craft breweries in New Zealand. Like they don't often come to mind straight off the bat as to who the when you're thinking the big ones are,
Yep,
but they're easily in the top 10, and maybe even in the top 5 of kind of craft brands,
definitely.
depending on whether you count Max and Maltese or not, but and
Yeah,
Boundary Road.
yeah. We'll
But
not
even
go
if,
there.
yeah, yeah. So, they, as you say, they've done a remarkable job in building that brand. They've got a really good venue, and as you talk about in the interview, on top of that, they have won the Brewers Guild Sustainability Award 6 years in a row, or
Yeah,
I think it's 6, because one year they didn't have it, but basically since going back to like 2018, 2019, and they're the only brewery that's ever won it.
yeah.
Yeah, so quite remarkable, environmental stewardship, I suppose, while growing a business,
Mm.
making great beer, and yeah, just a real success story, and two just lovely people. Like
I think the
it's,
interesting thing that came out in the interview and that people will hear when they listen to it is that all of those things, successful business, environmental stewardship, really good beer, are intimately linked for Sawmill. It's not that they do one the thing for environmental sustainability. They do it to be an effective and efficient business and to make good beer. It's all kind of comes together. It was a fascinating discussion. I really enjoyed my time there. They were very accommodating, and we had a great time. Sat outside the back of the tap room, having a chat in the sun.
I've listened to the interview, and there's a little bit of like a drum going in the background. Someone's playing music, it sounds like. Is it?
I'm not entirely certain what it was, but there was one bit where somebody walked very noisily up a gravel path next to us, which I couldn't trim out of the edit. But
yeah, these are the joys of doing it sort of organically. We
did it outside because we couldn't figure out how to turn the music off inside. So.
Yeah. Look, I was going to round back to that Foursquare beer, because I think this is another really interesting thing. Foursquare did this with Behemoth last year for their centenary, for their 100th birthday, and they partnered with a number of iconic brands to do sort of collabs, basically. And obviously that worked really well with the beer, with Behemoth, and they've done it again, this time with Sawmill. It's called Beach Days. And maybe for the second half, for anyone watching on video, I'll go and grab the 6-pack out of the fridge. So it looks great. Like, the art on it's very cool. It's very obviously kind of Foursquare, but it's got a nice feeling about it. Very bright and summery. And that's going to be in every Foursquare throughout the country over summer. So if you're listening and you're in a little small town, a holiday town this summer, you'll be able to find guaranteed at least one good beer in a Foursquare.
Yeah.
So,
and Bright IPA, I think, is my new favourite style at the moment. I think
yes,
it's just hitting the mark for me at the moment.
Yeah, it's funny, Martin. I was looking back at last year's December edition of Pursuit of Hoppiness, just to because every year I sort of do, the best brewery of, the best beer, and we all, the contributors, have their best beers. But I was trying to remember what else I put in the my awards list, for want of a better word. But one of the things I sort of stated or prophesied was that the beer style of the summer was going to be Bright IPA. And I feel maybe I was a year too early, because I think it's been on a slow burn. But now, there's Bright IPA everywhere, and they're being executed really well. I really enjoy the style as well. I think, that light, vibrant, I sort of say it could be an XPA by any other descriptor, if you were looking for something to capture that, the easy drinking quality, perhaps.
I think there's definitely some overlap into the XPA category, but as we all know, if you want to sell a beer, you need to stick IPA on there.
Yes, not XPA. XPA never really worked. Although, having said that, Brave Brewing rebranded their Stay Gold to an XPA for want of another name. So maybe that will get reinvented as a Bright IPA as well. Who knows? I had a really good one, actually. At my local, at Shining Peak, they did a collab with Liberty.
Yes,
on a Bright IPA, and it is very good if people see that around. It's keg only, unfortunately, but I'm sure it can be found outside New Plymouth, given that Liberty are involved. So look out for that.
I hope I can track some down.
Yeah,
here in the
I think it's
United.
called Full Circle, I think is the name. I could be wrong, but anyway, what else is there to talk about before we cross over? I think talked about the fire. We talked about the Lee Sawmill. Oh, I did want to say, I think what Sawmill do incredibly well, and I've written about this before, is their distribution penetration, just getting into different parts of the market. And the Foursquare one's a little bit like that.
Yep.
But one thing they do really well is they get their beer into golf clubs. And when I was a member at Titirangi in Auckland, one of the joys was that there was always Sawmill on tap. Invariably the Pilsner, an IPA, but the one I would always go to is the Nimble, which is the 2.5%,
2.5,
which is a super beer. And they've really made a concerted effort to get into golf clubs, and I think it's a really smart move, and one that I think, I don't know whether it would have sparked Lion to push for Steinlager to now be the official beer of New Zealand golf, which is, it sort of makes sense, but it surprises me that they hadn't gone there before,
Yeah.
And so this is another, Sawmill would just, and Liberty's another one because Joe's a golfer, but, there's such a great market. There's, people with money sitting around thirsty after a round of golf,
Absolutely.
Get in there.
The other thing that I'm very happy that Sawmill have managed to do is get into stadiums in Auckland, and
Yes.
in terms of
Mount Smart.
Mount Smart has got Sawmill beer, and will have it for the Warriors season as well.
Really?
So I
Okay.
am told.
Yeah.
So I remember going to see a concert at Mount Smart and being very pleasantly surprised that there was Sawmill beers available. So it's always great, to get into. Always good to get a local brand into something like a sports stadium. So that was great news.
Yeah, and I think it is really hard for a smaller brand to get into a big environment like that, where there's bound to be someone with a spreadsheet looking at costs, and it's in these mass market events tend to often fall to the lowest common denominator when it comes to a beer and food offering. You're not getting gourmet much in a sports stadium. So when they do bring good beer in, I say, give them a pat on the back for,
absolutely
being awake to it, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, we'll cross over to Matakana, sitting outdoors at the smoko room in the brewery. Martin with Mike Sutherland and Kirsty McKay. Enjoy.
Hi, Martin.
Hi.
All right.
It's nice to be here at the smoko room in the Sawmill Brewery behind us. Just for the listeners and viewers, do you want to kind of just quickly introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Kirsty McKay. Mike and I have been, people looking after Sawmill since 2010. It was founded in 2004, wasn't it, by Decima and Peter Freckleton. They started in a little shed adjacent to the Lee Sawmill Cafe, and it was a hobby for them, I think, a couple of days a week. And we moved up here and took over in 2010.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
quite a while, huh?
Yeah.
It is. I think
It's
there was
probably
only
one of the older breweries.
I think there was only 30-something breweries in New Zealand
Yeah.
at that stage, including brew pubs,
Yeah.
and we were the only one north of Auckland.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit different now, hey?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's great.
It's more exciting.
Every town has a brewery now. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So you are Mike.
I am Mike.
What's your story? Why brewing?
I think obviously I have a love of beer, but it was more I always wanted to have, or we always wanted to have our own business and make something. And I love factories. I've always had a bit of a factory fetish. And so I guess, when I was growing up as a kid, my dad worked for a meat company in Oamaru, and I used to go in there, ever since I was a real little kid, go to work with him on Saturdays or Sundays and just hang out in the factory and do things and observe things. And then I guess, that was probably what formed it for me. I was always fascinated about the engineering and process and different things, so having a beer factory sort of combined two loves.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I think there is a heck of a lot of tinkering you can do around brewing. Is that something that?
Yeah, there was one of the old brewers. He had this wonderful analogy that brewing is a beautiful mix of art, science, and engineering, which all, I guess, has a fair bit of tinkering. And I think we all start our beer careers based on the art of beer and brewing, and then it kind of moves into science, and as you grow then engineering becomes even more important. So it's a really awesome career and industry like that, where you get to combine all these really interesting things, and there's just if you've got an insatiable appetite for learning, the beer business can fulfill everything that you could ever dream of.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. That's just a really great perspective on that I've not really thought about. But so one of the things that we really wanted to talk about today was the fact that, and it was kind of prompted by the Brewers Guild of New Zealand awards, where Sawmill yet again took out the sustainability award. You've kind of got that locked down now, I think. They're going to have to name the award after you. I think so. And sustainability has kind of been a core part of your vision for Sawmill, kind of as long as I can remember. What kind of triggered that? Where did that come from?
I think like that word, that's the guild uses that word, and people use that word to describe things that we've been awarded or whatever, but we really think about it more as being innovative. That's what it comes down to. Being sustainable can be a bit, to be honest, a bit pious, a bit self-righteous. It's not, I don't know if it's particularly exciting. It sounds like you're just doing the right thing, but actually what you're trying to do is the most, it's about solutions. You're always trying to find a new solution. You're trying to find better efficiencies, processes, and so that's what I think fuels us to keep doing these things. It's not that we're trying to be good, right, in that sense. It's that, I don't think that's very interesting. It's so interesting as being focused on innovation, and that's exciting. There's endless. That'll never end.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it like that.
And in the beer industry, we're forced to be. We're really innovative around product. We're finding 1,000 different ways to make beer taste different.
Yeah.
To cure the thirst of consumers that are always wanting to try something different. And so that's already ingrained in you. And as time went on, and you look at your business and go, well, after a few years, we've survived, we're still here. How do we sort of take that thinking and spread it across the business to turn your good business into a great business? And so that innovation and desire to sort of be super efficient. Breweries are Well, manufacturing in general is terrible for the environment. You know, we use a lot of energy, we burn a lot of fossil fuel. We, make a litre of beer. You have, depending on how good you are, only 3 to 10 litres of wastewater. You have all these sort of, which is all expensive as well. So I guess by being efficient or innovative means that we can make positive impacts on our business that ultimately give you a sustainable bottom line, because that's the real measure of sustainability, is that it all has to make sense.
So that's a really interesting approach, really. So it's about sustainability of the business, and the fact that is good for the environment, good for kind of the surrounding is a byproduct. Is that or do the two just naturally come together?
We want a legacy that we've done our best, as a manufacturer, to have a positive impact. So for sure, maybe that is a moral imperative for us to look back and be able to say to our kids, we tried to have a really positive impact on our environment and our community, and we turned over every stone we could to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's what keeps it exciting, though, is the innovation and the culture that you create in your team. So that creativity that I think is often in the beer side applies to everything.
Right.
And so that's a really cool thing to be part of, where we're all thinking the whole time, but could we do it better? Right?
Mm-hmm. So what are kind of some of those innovations? What are some of the things that you've done that kind of, I guess, have won you some awards, some sustainability awards, but also have improved the way the business works?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the wastewater? I think that's the most exciting thing happening at the moment.
I think from the start, there's so many just easy wins, and what you have to do is measure. For a start, you have to measure your current position, like how much shit is going to landfill, or how much, how many litres of beer are you making, and how much LPG does that mean you're burning, or how much wastewater's, being discharged, or, how many litres of water do you need to make a litre of beer, and blah, blah, blah. So you need a base point. Then you need motivation, and then you just need to get on and do it. And so the easy wins for us early on was like landfill is a easy one. There's so many innovative other businesses now that will take your waste products and create commercial value out of them.
Or reduce the inputs in the first place.
Yes.
Which, saves money.
Yeah. So, we reduced our landfill by pretty much 90-something% in the, over a couple of weeks. And we still measure it now. Every week they measure how much rubbish we're putting in the landfill out of the brewery. And then, as time's gone on and we've grown, and then we have bigger problems to deal with. Because we're on a rural site, we're reliant on water off the site, and all the wastewater has to go back into it. So to do that well, we have to put clean wastewater back in, and so to come up with a system that future-proofs us has been a really interesting one. And so we engaged NIWA and some of their aquatic pollution scientists to come up with a land-based system where we could deal with our wastewater, because wastewater out of a brewery is really, it's high in nutrients and organic matter, and you need to reduce that substantially then to effectively discharge back into waterways. So for us, that meant that we've built a massive pond essentially with a cover on it, which is like a land-based anaerobic digester, similar to what you have on a dairy farm, except The real opportunity for us, and this is why sustainability always has to make commercial sense as well, is that by recovering, it's the waste material breaks down. It's broken down by methanogens, which is a bacteria, produces methane, which is biogas that then we can recover and use back in our boiler, because we also use a shitload of heat in LPG. So to do that alone, you offset the amount of LPG. It's just getting going now, but probably by 70 to 80%.
Wow.
So that's a massive cost saving.
That's a huge.
So that offsets the capital expense, and in the long term will actually be quite a major win as we keep growing and soak up the capacity we've created.
Because LPG is
Not
expensive,
getting
and it's not going to get cheaper.
Well, energy in general is
energy in general, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
LPG,
Yeah.
is it's always in the news as a driver of cost in industry, and the fact limited supply and so that sounds like a huge win.
But it's even smaller things, it's recovering your heat, your wasted heat energy, off the kettle, for example, running it back through a heat exchanger so that, you can basically use that heat to heat water to put back in your hot liquor tank, and, vapor recovery. And so there's lots of things that aren't the big projects as well that still have a substantial impact on how much energy, external energy you need.
Yeah.
So that's big.
The solar panels that we use. So we did a fairly rigorous process of understanding our energy use, when we used it, what time of the day, how much, to understand what kind of system would really work here.
Mm-hmm.
So we put that in like 2017 or something, first day, or 18, and then after the fire, we had a fire here in 2019. Since then we've replaced those, and next month we put in double that again.
Triple that.
Yeah. So we'll end up with like 111 kilowatt capacity system. So we should get around 30% of our power needs from solar.
That's that's kind of free energy coming out of the sky.
Totally. And I think it's good to be able to demonstrate.
And the payback's awesome.
Yeah, that
nowadays.
For a manufacturer it works, because sometimes you can feel like they're a bit washy, those systems. Like, are they going to have enough? Is it going to be worth it?
Yeah.
And I hope that we can demonstrate that it is, and be really transparent about that. People can see it works, that it's a good investment.
And I guess the other thing around solar from a manufacturing perspective is that a lot of your usage is during the day. When it's generating. It's not whereas domestic solar, I think, has a bit of an issue in that the majority of our usage at home is at night.
Totally. And that's why we went with a system with no battery, just an inverter. So we just use what we get.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I think in terms of the energy and the water are obviously a big inputs. Are there any other things that you do kind of in terms of kind of raw materials and so on? Because
I guess we have 4 silos here, so we can hold 60 tonne of bulk grain, which that I think it's 18,000 less sacks that we have to get rid of every year of grain. So that's pretty big. We only have to get a delivery once every 3 or 5 weeks or whatever, depending on the time of the year. So truck and trailer comes up, 30 tonne of grain, fills up the silos. So that alone, it's a lot of backwards and forwards when you're buying it by the pallet in sacks. So that's quite a big thing.
And even we use and work with Gladfield because they're New Zealand owned and really innovative, awesome company to work with, and a New Zealand owned company. And
the grains come in from here. Yeah. What about hops? I guess hops obviously are another very thirsty crop. Do you use mainly New Zealand hops, or is that
Yeah,
is that a
70%?
Yeah, 70,
Yeah.
probably be 80%
But
soon.
higher, yeah.
I think it's quite exciting with their,
Mm.
they're constantly developing new cultivars at the moment. So,
Yeah.
which is probably what we've lacked out in New Zealand, which is why there's been quite a big dependency on bringing in US or Australian hops, is for the to get more diversity in the flavour range. But as they keep developing these new varieties, they're kind of filling gaps that you might have relied on imported hops. So, we were 100% New Zealand hops probably up until about 5 years ago, but we just realised we weren't hitting the mark on some of the beers or what consumers wanted in their beers, so we did have to deviate a little bit. But I think as time goes on, we're kind of we'll end up swinging back in the long term.
So you're obviously part of the
Bract.
Bract program,
Yeah.
because I've seen a couple of beers with the NZH 10 whatevers. Yeah. What are you really excited about those ones coming through? Are there any that you think are?
Well, the one, what was the beer called? Nova. We called it Nova. What number was that?
We've just put one into a core range beer, 106, which we always really like. We love Rewalker here. It's always been a bit of a favourite of mine, and probably the wider team. So to have something with a similar dynamic. We've been trying a few more lately. 112, 115, and 116. We're working
that was
with
Nova,
at
I
the
think.
moment.
116. It was
So
really
there
popular.
is,
It's great
kind
feedback. It's awesome. All that innovation.
Yeah.
It's great.
just need to figure out what beer style they best suit, and that takes some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about because there are kind of Northland hops starting to pop up. I think there are people growing hops up here. Is that something that you see
awesome.
in the future would be something you'd be interested in?
I think we've had this Aotearoa series of beers, and we're up to 64 or something. So that's like, we are so 100% behind these growers and farmers in New Zealand to tell their stories and champion them and back them.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be amazing for Northland to grow hops. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, great for consumers to have that, because we've noticed the hops we grow here have quite a different flavour profile, even though they're the same hop, like Cascade or something will taste, have a different
different soil, different terroir.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce that, but that word. That word. So if they're growing up there, then maybe we get a whole nother, where we get Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc from Kaio. Who knows? That'd be great.
It would be be really interesting, I think. And I think we were talking to somebody at Biavana about the research that's happening now in terms of not only different regions growing hops, but picking at different times, and the so much that I think we haven't yet learned about hops, and I think you're right that it's partly the immaturity of the industry, maybe to some extent. That globally this research is happening and people are doing this stuff, but it's now starting to happen here, and I think with kind of some of the things that are going on down in Nelson with the Harpy research and alongside New Zealand hops, that maybe we'll see some of that. And I think I love the Aotearoa series, and the kind of the different kind of focus on different hops and so on. And as part of that, you've done some great collabs really as well. What kind of drew you to those?
We probably started doing them when we had the fire, because we were contract brewing for that period anyway. But it actually is just it's a really great opportunity for the professional development, people, the brewers to meet each other, work together. I think consumers love it. We've just done one with Brave, and it was so popular.
That beer was awesome.
was
That was
really
one
good
of
beer.
my favourites
Yeah.
of the
And we've
year
got some
so
more
far.
coming up. Can't tell you.
Oh no! Can't
But
even
it's
get any
exciting.
exclusives.
Yeah. We did a really fun collab with Emerson's. That wasn't actually part of Aotearoa series, but that was because we had fallen in love with beer through Emerson's when we lived in Littleton, buying it there. And so we wanted to kind of pay homage to Richard and the Pilsner. That was really cool, eh?
That was super
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's all sorts of collabs, like with other businesses as well that aren't beer related.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's great, you know, when you, like we work with Norsewear, for example, that make amazing, you know, it's made in Norsewood, all these
Right.
great wool products, and we have a lot in common, you know. We're really encouraging people to buy New Zealand made, New Zealand owned. It makes a big difference to the economy and all of our opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So it's
that's
fun
really
to
cool.
work with those businesses.
Yeah, and that kind of a line on in terms of
Yeah.
vision and values,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and after 15 years, you know, you need these things that keep things interesting and you keep learning. Yeah.
On a kind of a related note to what we were talking about in terms of the sustainability.
Yeah.
You and I spoke a few years ago, actually, I think, about B Corp.
Yeah.
Could you explain what B Corp is and why
Yeah.
you went down that route?
Well, it's a global certification that looks at every aspect of the way your business operates: governance, community engagement, your team, your customers, and your environmental impact, particularly for a manufacturer. So there's an assessment that you go through. It's weighted differently for every business depending on your, so we're a manufacturer, it's weighted much more heavily towards our environmental impact than, say, an IT company. You don't have to hit exact things, you just have to get a total number of points, and you have to have a certain number from each category. So not everything applies to everyone. It's not inflexible,
Right.
but it's really tough. Like especially when we first did it, because we were there's lots of things you do that you don't document. You know, they wanted a lot of policies. There was no data in New Zealand to compare ourselves with other. They often want comparative data. There's none here. Like nobody knows how much water we're all using. You know, no one submits that information. So we had to use the BA, the Brewers Association data from the US.
Right.
They do really, really thorough work and have a lot of benchmarking tools, which are really good for us too. So we know how we're doing globally against the best breweries internationally. So I think we wanted to use it because we wanted to be able to measure whether we were building a good, strong business across the board. And we weren't really sure, like, how we're going to test ourselves on this, you know, or hold ourselves to account. So B Corp provides that framework for us. Yeah. Don't think many people know about it. Doesn't particularly matter to us. That's not the reason we do it. It's not for a marketing exercise. So it's a measure for us. What we have noticed though is it's really good at attracting good staff. People who know it want to work for companies that are B Corp. Hey, that was sort of an unexpected outcome, I guess.
Certainly gives the team a sense of pride, you know, that they're part of something that is more than just transactional, you know, making a product and selling it at the end, you know, like we're trying to be, you know, it's just all about continuous improvement, because every time you recertify, you've got to demonstrate that you are a much better business than you were 3 years ago when you last certified. So it certainly creates a mindset in the team, and then it attracts people that want to work here because they want to be curious, perhaps, with a sense of wanting to learn, and they're attracted for I guess, the right reasons, which is really cool.
And it really plays into that what you were talking about before in terms of kind of like sustainability is across the business. It's about making the business better, and B Corp is about measuring to make sure that you know that you're doing, and it gives you pointers, doesn't it, in terms of this is where you can improve.
This would be better if you're doing this, it's good if you measure your emissions, it's better if you measure and set targets, it's better again if you measure, set targets and achieve the targets, that kind of thing. So, it's good. You're like, okay, well, that's a good way to do better than we're doing now.
It's giving you a set of things to work on.
Yeah. And I have nothing against consultants, or there's some amazing B Corp consultants, but we did it ourselves, and we've done so many things ourselves here, and it's really valuable because, like carbon accounting, for example, it's looks like a bit of a dark art, it looks expensive, you can't see carbon, it's all a bit, what's the point? But actually, we've just done it ourselves. We wanted to be able to understand it. In the end, we're the ones that need the information.
Yeah.
And it's really useful for working out, where you're going to get a whole lot more efficiency, so that you can see it for yourself when you do it, and you keep it kind of simple and understandable. Don't overcomplicate it.
Because at the time you first got the certification, you were kind of one of a pretty small number of businesses in New Zealand. I think that had it. I think there's probably more since, and you were definitely the first brewery.
Yes, definitely.
I think Lion
certified the other day.
Done it, haven't they? That must be
well done.
Yeah, I think that's a
great.
That's a great thing for if a company of that size is doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably have an even bigger appreciation because you know what you've gone through to get that.
It's good, and it actually, it probably doesn't matter why they did it, whether they felt like consumers wanted it, or it's just good if they're improving. And it's good for all of us. We need momentum with these changes, like us. That's why we try and be so transparent about things. 'Cause really, unless it's replicable and more people do it, we only have a tiny impact.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's why it's great that the Brewers Guild has the award, and that people recognise that, and it gives them. I always hope. I think it's great that you guys have won it so many times. I hope that it inspires people to want to kind of knock you off.
Maybe we should stand aside, because maybe it would be good to hear. In fact, it would probably be good if they had a panel and we spoke about these things that really work for us, because ultimately it's a bit of a Pyrrhic victory. You want more people to go, that looks like, that makes sense, I can see the information on that, I can see the cost, I can see it works for them, I'm going to do that,
Which is just great for the whole industry, and I guess that's important to us too, that people can pick up, and we're available if anyone ever wants to know something, they can just talk to us. Like we'll never hide anything. Like everything is
even what's failed.
Yeah, which is valuable for
definitely. Don't whatever you do, don't do that.
We did the same. Like totally. when in years gone by, like I've been to Sierra Nevada and New Belgium Brewery and all these places, and you just contact them and they welcome you with everything. They show you everything they're doing, and it just opens your eyes with what is possible, because they've got better resources, I guess, and but when you measure it all down, we're kind of all doing the exact same things. There isn't, if I go to those breweries, there's really nothing else they're doing that we're not, which is super encouraging for us. But there's always opportunity to improve, and they see that too. So that's pretty cool. Stone and Wood, they were really helpful. Yeah, heaps of cool projects there. And I guess in these economic times, unfortunately, it's really tough for SMEs to invest in these things, but also it would be more useful than ever. Yeah, I was just thinking exactly that. Tricky,
I was just
dilemma.
thinking exactly that,
Yeah.
that we're in this situation where like
Yeah.
everybody is suffering.
Yeah.
It's tight. If there are ways that they could improve efficiency, they could do that. As you say, the things you've done are to make the business better.
Yeah.
And great, it makes the world better at the same time.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said that when people are like, oh, why should we try and reduce emissions and whatever? It's like, well, because people, all the conspiracy theories, climate change is a hoax and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but if we do all this stuff, we get a much better world anyway.
Totally.
Like you get cleaner water, you get cleaner air, and all this stuff.
Yeah. So what about
Isn't that a good?
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing? If we don't worry about whether the fact that it's climate change or whatever, but we're just kind of improving the planet anyway. Why wouldn't you do that?
Just do it for that reason. Yeah. You don't.
But if you can do it and it improves your business and it makes you more likely to survive and thrive, then that's a good thing to do anyway.
I think it helps your mindset. You feel like you can find a solution and a way out of anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Your creativity is constantly worked when you think like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the moment, you really need that.
Yeah.
You know, we all needed it during COVID. We needed it after the fire. So we went into COVID already pretty adaptable, you know?
Yeah. Because you'd just come back from the fire when that hit.
And then I think that mindset really helps when things are tough as well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Talking of kind of learning from other things, you were just over in Germany, is that right?
Yes. Yep. So Rory, our production manager from here, his background's he's a process engineer. So and him and I went over to Munich. They had Drink Tech over there, which is a big sort of engineering trade show, 1,000 exhibitors. Conveniently, the week before Oktoberfest starts.
I'm sure they arranged that.
I'm sure they get a lot more people attending.
But it's, attending those sorts of things are quite inspiring. You see all the other innovation that's happening and that directly affects your industry. So just being able to get around and see, what other engineers and suppliers of raw goods and stuff, what's coming on stream, and probably being down in New Zealand, you're quite removed from that world, because most of these companies are, European or a lot of Chinese too, in saying that, which are, a lot of them making really good stuff now. So to be able to go, have the opportunity to go and see that is great for, when you think about the future of your business, what you're going to need to keep growing and where it's going to come from and how you can, continue to refine what your operation is in the business or the process and other things that you can bring in-house that you currently do externally, so really useful.
Any bright ideas that are going to that you've come back burning to implement?
Well, there's definitely, we're growth is the key to our longevity, and so if you're not growing or you're standing still, you're kind of going nowhere. So that's a pretty simple strategy for us. Is that when people go, oh, what's your business strategy or plan? It's just growing, and so.
And that's relentless pursuit of better beer. You can't grow if you're not making better product all the time. Mm-hmm. So we haven't talked about beer much, but that's...
No, we haven't. We're going to, don't worry.
Yeah. So growth in a market that's declining, you also go, well, does that mean we look at diversifying into other products? What's our competitive advantage? So you're asking these questions all the time and then trying to figure out what slots in, either in the line of beer or around beer or all these sorts of things. So I don't know. We haven't exactly decided what that looks like, but you have to, try and figure it out. And so means getting out of New Zealand a little bit too, doing a lot of research.
Talking of research, I assume while you were there, you managed to try some
Very good
beer.
lagers, excellent Hefeweizens.
I wanted to talk about the Hefeweizen actually, because you won a trophy for that, and when Michael and I did the episode of the Third Pint Theory about the New Zealand Beer Awards, I said that winning the trophy for Hefeweizen is like winning best foreign language film at the Oscars. It's like your peers are really pleased for you, but nobody buys it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's such a shame because it's such a great beer. If you could make it all the time and buy it super fresh, it would be so good.
I have to say, so I took my mum and dad to the Oktoberfest celebration at Twofold in Parnell at the weekend, and they had Hefeweizen on tap there. And the thing that struck me was that I bought my dad a glass of the Hefeweizen, put it on the table, and he was talking and he wasn't really paying attention, and this beer sat there for probably 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, dead.
And the head did not move. It was this perfect, fluffy white head that just stayed solid. And I think that's two things. One, as an incredibly well-made beer, and Twofold clean their glasses very well.
Credit to them.
So I think there were two things. But so what is it about that beer that makes it so great?
It's simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. It's. I think it's just the balance of the esters that you have coming through. You don't want too much of ripe banana, but you don't want to have nothing of it. And it was interesting when we were in Munich. Went to Schneiderweiss, a few other tap rooms while we were there, and tried a lot of wheat beer, and both Rory and I were like, this measures up really well compared to these. And the great thing about German beer is they keep it, I don't know how many beers we make in a year, but they just make a really amazing lager and a really amazing wheat beer, and that's kind of their range. And they just make shitloads of it, and so they're very, very good at it. And I guess, you kind of, when they're so good at it, all you can do is really try and emulate what they've got. And I guess that just, it's a pretty simple beer anyway, but it's just trying to make sure you get the fermentation right. That's kind of the key to it. And on this occasion we did.
I have to say, I'm one of those strange people that Hefeweizen is not a style that I really like, and I love many other beers. Hefeweizen's not my thing, but that is a really well. You can tell that it's well made, and it was well deserving of the trophy. What are your personal favourites of the range?
I love our the barrel aged porter that we've got at the moment, and the barley wine. And we don't make them very often, but like when we have a good, red IPA, something with a bit of rye. That's what I really love. We can't make them that often because they're not as popular, and so you can't have old beer around.
Yeah. That barley wine is stunning.
It's really good. It's just getting better and better.
I will happily admit that I bought quite a bit of that and shoved it away in the
Take note.
Yeah. I think, and I was amazed that it's hitting a really good price point as well.
Yeah,
it's good. It was definitely.
It's good buying. Barley wine.
Excellent. Oh no, that's cool.
Yep.
What about yourself, Mike?
I kind of I enjoy the full spectrum of beer, but I do favour probably some of the slightly more European style. Like I love hoppy beers, but I also love Pilsner. I love Baltic Porter. We've made a really amazing Weissenbach in the past. But unfortunately, when you're trying to balance out your commercial side of what you're trying to do, you have to make beer that are gonna sell through. You have to cash is king, so it needs to be turned into cash quite quickly. So, that means that you need to have your Pilsner or IPA, and those beers that the crowds want have to be in. They get quite a bit of attention. But yeah, I think.
So we're really proud of the Pilsner.
Yeah,
it's a great.
Yeah, especially around Auckland. Like it's pretty well represented. We have a lot of,
It's one of the classics of New Zealand beer. Is the Sawmill Pilsner is kind of up there with Emerson's Pilsner, as we were saying earlier. It is in many places. It's one of those beers that seems to have kind of sneaked its way into a bunch of different restaurants and things as well. I think it's a great beer. In terms of customer demand, where do you see that going? Do you see any change? Because we've kind of been through haze.
Yeah.
Are we still in the hazy?
We're definitely still in it.
Yeah, everyone wants it to be over, I think, but at the same time, they also keep buying it, so we're trapped, aren't we?
Yeah.
Hazies. Yeah.
I think there is probably. I feel like there's a desire maybe for simple, really well-made, clean styles. You see this internationally where there is a bit of a move back towards lager style beers. Perhaps not classic mainstream lager, but good lagers or pilsners or something similar.
West Coast Pilsners.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, is that a request?
Well, could be.
Like,
I would drink it.
But then maybe we've reached sort of peak hop in terms of IPA styles.
Right.
I think I don't know. It's a tricky one because you've got to keep putting yourself in the spectrum of consumers that you supply. And I always go back. We supply like Mount Smart Stadium, and at lots of events we sell more because Heineken also sell there, and at some events there'll be more Sawmill hazy sold than Heineken, which is quite an interesting observation of like where if you've got a good slice of the population, and you go, well, that's quite incredible, really, when you've got an international lager that isn't selling as much as a hazy pale ale.
I remember going to, I think I went to see Pearl Jam at Mount Smart, and it was
so good.
Sawmill beer.
Yeah.
It was so good.
So cool. It's cool that the council backs New Zealand.
Yeah.
Auckland business.
Particularly. Yeah. I think the first when craft as a concept kind of got going, probably a lot of people didn't get into it. It was quite. I sort of sometimes think it was almost probably there was so many strange, unusual, hoppy, quirky beers being made that became almost synonymous with New Zealand breweries.
Right.
And I think now maybe there's an opportunity to go back and say we can also just make a really good simple lager. You don't have to go to an international foreign-owned company to buy a beer like that.
And I think that's a really good point as well. Is that I think that maybe the Mount Smart experiences is kind of people are looking to support local businesses and will go. Yeah. Actually, I've got a choice between a Heineken or a local beer, and I know that I can trust that. Yeah. And I know they want to support local, and they've now got to the point where it's not this scary, flowery, whatever.
Too strong. it's got something weird in it, you know.
It can
So
have those
we
things
also
if you
had to
want
meet-
it to have.
Yeah, but we kind of had to meet those people and say, well, actually, you can just have a really good simple beer as well. Because we still have people that come in here and say, I don't like craft beer, which doesn't even make sense. You know, it's not even one type, but it tells you that they've got a concept of it in their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we can. That's why there's still opportunity.
Yeah.
To introduce those people to.
Yeah, because you've
Yeah,
got
they
the
like
range, you've got the that you can hit across all of those things. I wanted an interesting part of the conversation that we had with Luke from Epic and Steve from Hallertown the other week was one of the things was everything's been done. Maybe is it now? Are we getting to that point where it's really? Is it possible to innovate in beer styles anymore?
It's a good question.
What do you reckon?
Oh, jeez. I guess it gets harder, but there's no reason. You know, like it's like what fruits can you combine with different hops, and you know, fruited beers, or you know, hybrid sort of sour fruited beers, or I don't know. I just think that there is, you know, maybe herbs are used more.
I think they're probably right in terms of style. You know, we've hit all the style points, but I think what we were talking about earlier in terms of kind of hop varieties and new hop varieties and new growing areas and so on. I think that there's still innovation in flavour to be had. It's maybe a little bit harder to innovate in style.
But certainly innovation.
But I'm not sure that customers are as interested in style as they maybe used to be. I think that there was that kind of in the big craft growth boom and maybe the untapped kind of boom. It was like, oh yeah, I've never had a hazy double IPA before or whatever, and so I'll go look for that. But now it's a good beer, and I've not had that flavour combination before.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm hoping that's maybe.
And what we all feel like at any given time, and you want it to be great beer as well. So you always have, I think, room to tweak your beers.
Yeah. So what? So what is the future like for Sawmill? Let's leave the rest of the industry to sort themselves out. And you talked about growth and you talked about just making things better. Are there any kind of specific things that you have in mind, or?
I'd love to see New Zealand-owned breweries have a bigger share of the beer market. You know, it's still 90-something% foreign-owned. Mm-hmm. And that would be awesome. I think people even knew that, you know, because every dollar is a vote.
Yeah.
So I think I'd love to see that happen, and whatever we have to do as an industry. You didn't say specifically not the industry, but I think as an industry, if we can reach a wider audience, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You what Kirsty said. I think, you know, I think there is heaps of opportunity to grow our share of the overall beer market for Sawmill. So that's a focus. You know, we've built our capacity to achieve that on this site. So that remains the focus. But it's also we do have to look at other beverage opportunities as well. You know, we have our own sales team, customer services team, logistics team. We've got our own warehouse here and cool store and everything else. So you know, for you know, while we're continuing to achieve that, it's like, what else can we take into it? I guess when you look at any large brewery, once upon a time they were just a brewery, and now they're a multi-beverage business. diversify, and I'm not saying that we go to that extent, but there is definitely other opportunities to tack other products in.
And you have an awesome restaurant here as well.
Yeah. This is a beautiful site. It's comes with a lot of challenges, but being really rural, there's probably only, I was thinking about it last night, probably Lakeman and ourselves would be the only breweries on a farm, I think. Maybe I'm sure someone will correct me.
Probably,
but there can't be many.
possibly.
There can't be more than a handful. And that's pretty unique in itself. Yeah.
I know I've always found, I think that food and beer together is a big growth possibility, and having this awesome venue is it must be
it's awesome, and we try and keep it quite. We don't have like special glassware. We try and make it approachable. We just want you to come in, have a good beer, and go, actually, that was good. I would normally only drink whatever export, but that was great.
Yeah, it's.
So we don't want to make it too fussy.
I think that there is a place for that.
I do too.
I think there is a place for that, and I think there is a place for kind of making more of beer in a fine dining setting. I think I have a kind of a personal hobby horse that we should be doing. That I should, if I'm going into a fine dining restaurant, I should be able to select from more than 4 beers on the list out of the 15 page wine list.
Yeah, the wine can last and the beer less so.
I think there's some challenges.
Curate it from beers that do cellar. That would be awesome.
I think that there are definitely some possibilities around that. But we could talk about beer and food for days.
Yes, you can go both ways with it. We have a really good range. There's definitely something here for every kind of beer lover, but I really love it when people come in and they're like, I just drink, they're a bit like, ugh. And then you give them a lager and they're happy. They relax. That's awesome.
And then you can potentially go, if you've had that, why don't you try,
Because we all start somewhere like that, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think that, a lot more people have been exposed. I think, as you say, it's less of that. Oh my God! I don't know what any of the. I don't understand this. There lots more people have been exposed to that through some of the kind of the larger brands going into kind of the you get a Monty's hazy or whatever, So I think that there's definitely still growth opportunities in those people. So,
and we can just show up and like more places like stadiums and things like that where you're used to seeing just masses of average beer.
Yeah, that is so good. It's still a really pleasant surprise to me when I go into somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, going to a Warriors game at Mount Smart, there are other restrictions which don't give me quite the same options, but there's still something about a lion red at a Warriors game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Look, we'll kind of bring things to a close around that, because I'm sure we could kind of rattle on for hours, or certainly I could anyway. But look, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and I know we didn't talk as much about beer in particular as we would do in some other episodes, but I think that it's always good to give people something slightly different, and to give them that different perspective on why you do things the way you do. And I hope that people take this and think we could improve our business by doing some of these things, and I'm sure you'd be happy to help. So
And
look,
come back and we'll talk about beer next.
we can talk about beer, and I mean, lots of times.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
Thank you.
Kirsty.
Yeah,
thank you for your time. Thank you for looking after us.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
How about
Okay.
that? Wasn't that a good interview? Well,
Oh,
I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying that I was the greatest interviewer, but my
I thought you
subject
were, Martin. I thought you were really good. You ask intelligent questions, and no, and the environment's just really relaxed and friendly. So that's down to you. So kudos. I did think it was a little bit amusing that you were so unkind about Hefeweizen. Myself and a bunch of other German wheat beer lovers may have to have a word with you in private. I was very happy when Sawmill brought out a 6-pack of their Hefeweizen last year or last summer. And we should mention that I think you did mention they won a trophy for that at the New Zealand Beer Awards, along with the sustainability. And one you didn't touch on was they won the packaging award, which is, so there's 3 quite diverse trophies, to be honest, which is, and the packaging is very distinctive.
It is. I think it's all. You always know it's a Sawmill beer. They've got in that very strong identity, even though kind of the individual beers and labels are quite different, but there is very definitely a theme running through it. I think they've done really well. I really liked their the bright IPA that they brought out in 6-packs before the Foursquare one.
They may be the same beer, I don't know.
Maybe
also no. Who knows?
But anyway, it was really nice, and it was really distinctive, big, bold, beautiful red cans.
Yes,
it was a great beer.
yeah. And on the packaging note, I did used to like when they were more in bottles, or quite regularly in bottles, and they had, remember, the sawtooth labels, and so the top of the labels were sort of jagged, as if they'd been cut by a saw, and it was like the effort to go into that. It was a bit like Tuatara bottles, someone's gone and had to create that, and it's going to cost you extra money to do it, but it's worth it in some ways, to be an effective brand statement or a piece of marketing or whatever. It just makes you go, oh, it's a bit different, bit special, so yeah, I say good for them.
Yeah. And I think the whole point, the thing that I took away from that interview, and I hope that people do the same, is that the environmental sustainability achievements that they've got are absolutely mind blowing. The massive reduction in landfill, the fact that they're now effectively generating almost all of their gas needs from digestion of the wastewater. Those impacts are amazing. But it all comes from this. We just want to be a really good business in all aspects.
And that's an interesting point, in that, a lot of the time people think to do things well in that regard is going to be costly and is going to impact their business. I can't possibly do that because it's, there's a capital outlay or whatever. And, I just think it shows that if you go in that direction, take the chance, do it well, it's actually makes your business better in all sorts of ways, and doesn't stop you being successful, Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I took from that as well was that, it attracts staff. That focus on not just the environmental sustainability, but the B Corp stuff as well, it makes people want to work there. And It's still a pretty tough market, and
Yep.
getting good people is vital to a business, and if that helps, it's another thing to help the long-term future of the business.
I think another thing that you sort of touched on in the interview, which is interesting, is they're very good at doing collaborations, and especially with people outside the industry. Like they did one, I think it was Victory Knives.
Yep.
They've done one with Ironclad, that make
Cast iron
pans.
pans. Yep.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of others that slipped my mind.
They've
Just
done
now.
some clothing ones as well.
Yes, and there was a thing with the Peter Blake. What was that? Yeah. Anyway, they get outside that beer world in terms of those collabs, and that's not unusual, but I think they do it a lot more frequently than many others. Which again is a good way to get your beer out into the world and into different little niches and pockets, and create that awareness. Yeah.
And they also work so well with other breweries in terms of, they're always open to sharing, the what they've learned about sustainability, what they've learned about, B Corp and better ways to do business. They're very open to sharing that knowledge and kind of bringing others along the journey. I think they're a great team, a great business, and they make some damn good beer.
Yeah,
including at Hefeweizen, which I'll stop. I'll stop maligning a great.
Stop with your heavy hate. Stop it. Right. We should wrap it up now because we've blathered on far too long. And we will be back again before the end of the year. At least once, maybe twice. Before we do have a week break for Christmas. So stay tuned. Do share the love if you're enjoying this. Let other people know. Yeah, we want to make sure we're not
subscribe.
Yeah,
leave reviews. Those are all good things.
And I want to give a real shout out actually to one of our biggest fans, Ezra. If you're listening, Ezra, I'm sure you are all the way to the end. Thank you. He's a good man, and he's always in there with a comment on Spotify. Love your work. AKA the Peckish Kiwi on Instagram, for those who follow. But yeah, no, we've got some good devoted fans, and people do let us know that they're enjoying it, which is great. But our egos need more boosting every now and then. So yeah, no, it's great. It's been a really interesting episode, this one, Martin. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I know a lot about Sawmill. I've drunk a lot of their beer. I know their story, but it was a fresh take, really interesting, and great. I don't know, to hear it from the source, unmediated, so to speak. This newfangled journalism.
I thought and that's something that I've taken from all of these episodes, really, and that every interview we've done, I've learned new stuff, and that has been really great for me, and I hope that the listeners have enjoyed that also.
All right. On that note, we will leave you until next time. Good night. Enjoy your beer, whatever you're drinking, be it a Hefeweizen or a bright IPA.
Cheers.
Cheers.